CBS News has released a photo of their team of reporters and producers for the 2020 election season. The group consists of 8 reporters, 4 associate producers. Many were quick to point out that something was really missing in this photo. Freshman Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, CBS News hasn't assigned a single black journalist to cover the 2020 election. Actress Kerry Washington, she's asking, who will you turn to for a perspective and understanding of the African-American experience? California Congresswoman Maxine Waters tweeted, the efforts on your website about your support of diversity fly in the face of your display of all the reporters you've selected for the 2020 campaign. Just so happens that this photo comes out at the time that Dorothy Gilliam is joining me tonight here in studio. She was the first African-American female reporter, columnist, and editor of the Washington Post. She was already a legend by the time I got here in '76. She's the author of a new book, Trailblazer, a pioneering journalist fight to make the media look more like America. She's also my homegirl. She's from Louisville. Dorothy, nice seeing you.
Great to be here, Bruce.
You were already legendary. You were famous by the time I got here, and we were looking at you and the other African-American journalists at the Washington Post saying, I want to be just like them when I grow up. So thank you very much, and thank you for this book, The Trailblazer. Dorothy, let me ask you about this CBS photo that we just saw. No African-American reporters in this picture. What did you think when you saw that?
I thought it was awful. There are black American males and females who could be great digital producers, reporters, and they should be a part of that because the African American community ought, and that perspective ought to be among the perspectives shown. Yeah. And I think we've reached a place where too quickly, if there are other people of color, there's a feeling, well, we don't need African Americans. That's wrong.
I know for a fact you expected to see that kind of a photo when you first started at the Washington Post, right? What year are we talking? When did you start?
I started in 1961.
How many African Americans? How many minorities?
I was the first woman, and there were 2 African American men. And being first is not easy, especially in a segregated Washington as it was in 1961. Getting a taxi when I went out to cover my stories and come back and write them was agony. I was mistaken for a maid when I went to cover a 100th birthday party in Northwest Washington, where at that point no black people lived. These were just occurrences. There were so many like that, but they were also occurrences I could not come back and tell my desk about it. I could not come back and tell my editor about it, because I knew if I did that, it was going to be harder for the next black woman reporter who was hired. They would say, or they could say, well, we tried it, but we couldn't get taxis to pick her up. That was not our fault. Right. That was another industry's fault.
So what was your support system? Who did you talk to? Who did you lean on for support?
There were 2 African Americans, and one was Wallace Terry, another was a guy, Luther Jackson. Luther Jackson and I would sometimes talk about these issues. The other thing I did was to seek out people in the black press, and they gave me a lot of support. I talked to people like Simeon Booker over at Jet Magazine.
Icons.
Icons, exactly. Yeah. But they were very welcoming, they were very open. They helped me understand the city, the culture of Washington, U Street and what it meant, and that historical piece that so often was important. But just very quickly, one of the things that was so refreshing to me after the Civil Rights Movement, after the Kerner Commission started telling the media, you've got to integrate, when African American reporters and more women came on, and they went out and had bad experiences, they came back and talked about it. I couldn't do that. Right. And so that was kind of a weird kind of progress.
No, I hear you, because I know after the riots, of '68, a lot of us came through the door. I consider myself part of the second wave. You were there even before then, so I mean, it must have been long. I got to ask you about Louisville. You grew up in segregated Louisville. There's still a part of me that hates Louisville and my upbringing in Louisville. What about you?
There's a part of me that hates Louisville, but there was a part of me that loved the particular environment of being a preacher's daughter, growing up near a church where you had a lot of loving people, that it was part of the strength and that feeling of being loved that I got in my community that helped to strengthen me when I felt rejected.
Is that where somebody told you you could do this, you could become a journalist?
That's where they said, when I wrote my first story in the black newspaper, the Louisville Defender, they said, that's good, keep doing that. And so, you know, getting that kind of encouragement made me know that I could do it. And that helped me all along the way.
Yeah, and so also you're cut from that cloth of Louisville. You know, my mother at age 52 got her undergrad degree from the University of Louisville after working all of her life as a domestic. Okay,
oh, that's great.
So it wasn't all bad. You're absolutely right. We had a lot of role models there. Again, the book is Trailblazer. I really appreciate your coming in and talking to us because I know you got a lot of other interviews lined up. Dorothy, this is really special, and I need you to come back. Okay?
Thank you so much.
We need to do part 2 of this.
I'd love to do that.
All right. Okay.